Welcome back on stage to the Impro talk, Lend Me Your Face, theme and variation of a deepfake AI artwork by Tamiko Thiel. Tamiko Thiel is a media artist and has been developing virtual reality artwork since 1994 and has also been working with augmented reality since 2010. She was also the lead product designer of the first AI computer, the so-called connection machine CM1, CM2, I hope I pronounce it properly, built in 1986 and 1987, which is now part of the collection of MoMA in New York. In 2018, she received the SAT Montreal Visionary Pioneer Award for the exploration of place-based body and cultural identity in political and socially critical media artworks. And now she will give us insights in her recent artwork, Lend Me Your Face. Welcome, Tamiko Thiel. It's really a pleasure to have you here, finally.
Thank you very much. Yeah. My talk was scheduled for much earlier, and then I broke my leg. So I'm very happy to be able to give it now. It's not doesn't quite fit into this theme, but I hope you will bear with that. So I'll go right to the to share my presentation. And we'll take off here. So Lend Me Your Face is an artificial intelligence deepfake artwork that I did together with my project partner /P, seen here on the right of the screen. And just a brief bit of background, I started out as a product designer, as a mechanical engineering designer, worked in that field in Silicon Valley before going to MIT for my graduate studies in mechanical engineering. But while I was at MIT, I ended up spending most of my time socially, hanging out with people at the Artificial Intelligence Lab. So from about 1981 on, I was in this milieu. And when I graduated, in the meantime, I had discovered the parts of MIT that later, a couple of years after my graduation, became the Media Lab. And I had made the decision to become a media artist, but my friend Danny approached me right after graduation and said, hey, I'm starting a company to build my thesis project, the Connection Machine, and I'd like you to come and do the packaging design for the machine. So we were both around 26 at the time. It was a very young company, especially for those days. It was unusual to be building computer hardware with such young people. But it was really a fascinating project because this machine was inspired by the human brain, which has, as you probably know, over 80 billion very small dumb processors that we call neurons, but they're richly connected together. And this sort of rich connection of very small processors was Danny's idea. We couldn't do 80 billion, but he said, let's start out with around 64,000. So I had to wire them together. I didn't know how to connect every single one of these processes together. And it turns out that we had not a summer student, but a summer professor, Nobel physicist Richard Feynman, who spent his summers with us. And he was designing the router that was connecting the processes together in what he called a 12D Boolean N-cube. So I had to understand what exactly that was in order to be able to say, connect these processors with these traces. So I played around with the information he gave me, and I finally came up with this visualization where I realized that in every third dimension, the third dimension, the sixth dimension, the ninth dimension, the 12th dimension, etc., the form repeated itself in this cube of cubes. And to make a very long story very short, that's exactly how we decided to build the machine, that the external form would reflect this cube of cubes, the hardware network. But then I wanted to let the machine really speak for itself, the software connections that would be able to connect with each other between processes independently of the actual hardware wiring. So we moved these status lights that are usually next to each one of the processor chips out to the edge of the board, made the doors transparent, and then the machine could speak for itself. You could see it talking to you as it thinks. Now, if you go to the internet and Google this machine, you will find a lot of articles saying it was a failure, it went bankrupt in the mid-90s. It was clear at that point that artificial intelligence was a useless technology and would never succeed. But of course, the researchers kept on working, and then it turns out, as I found out years later, that actually the co-founder of Google, Sergey Brin, learned as an undergraduate how to do parallel programming on a connection machine. And then he and Google actually developed both the hardware and the software of Danny Hillis's original ideas further, and that is what turned Google into the augmented artificial intelligence powerhouse that it has now become. And I'm proud to be able to say that the connection machine packaging design, for which I was responsible, also, I found out years later, influenced Steve Jobs' sense of design and what design could do and how design could communicate something beyond just the function of a machine. So my good friend Joanna Hoffman was working as his right hand when he started the next company, and she told me years later, when they started to design the package, Steve Jobs had seen the connection machine and said, "Bring me that designer, I want them to do my next cube." And Joanna said, unfortunately, Tamiko's gone to Europe to become an art student, and I have no contact information. But if you look at how he designed things before and after that point, you will see that that's the point at which his designs became really sublime. So those arguments were the ones that I presented to the Museum of Modern Art 30 years later, when they were considering whether or not to add the machine to its collection. And luckily that succeeded. So that was my introduction to artificial intelligence. Was long ago, working with this company that was working on problems of cognition, of navigation, of search, all the things that you now do on your smartphones. And actually, this connection machine, which was the fastest machine in the world in 1989, has all the computing power of an iPhone 5, which probably none of you would deign to use these days. So that's the progression in computing technology that brought us where we are. And the fact that the Web 2 came along, where people start being able to feed their data into the internet, provided us with the massive amounts of data that, with this new processing power that developed over the decades, could now make artificial intelligence a working technology. So of course I was seeing all of this development happening in the teens, and wanted to do something with it as an artwork, as part of my practice as a professional artist that I had become. But the opportunity to really do so really first came last year. I'm part of the Artists Association in Haus der Kunst here in Munich, and Berkan Karpat and Rainer Ludwig, Cornelia Oswald Hoffmann decided to do an entire exhibit on the subject of artificial intelligence art, and asked me to create a work for that. Now, this is a very large exhibit. This is a whole wing of the museum, and each room had one or more installations there. There was one room called the Live Act Room, where there were 10 of us artists who alternated showing our works there. So this is what it looked from the top-down view, with 6 different screens, each one about 2 meters by 2 meters, and then a days in the middle where we could put our computers to actually then create and project our work, one artist installation at a time. So together with my project partner /P, we came up with this piece that we call Lend Me Your Face. We used online open source deepfake neural network frameworks from Professor Xiaoro Hin, extended with help from a couple of other people, and using the Vox Celeb dataset, which is also available online. Part of using these existing data sets was really because I was aware of how much energy and and processing power, creating a new data set required, and wanted to keep our carbon footprint as small as possible, even while creating a new AI artwork. So with this framework, you only need one still photo of each participant's face, kind of like an official, frontal photograph showing the head and the neck. And then you use a driving video to animate the features of that face and the movement of their head. And because I have a political social bent, I looked for driving videos of public figures who were very important in the news at that time: Angela Merkel, Obama, Trump. We were coming up on the elections in the US, Greta Thunberg, and used these to animate the faces. So we had these 6 large screens surrounding the visitors. We had an assistant at the very front of the exhibition space. When people were lining up because of the COVID restrictions, they could only come in a few at a time. And also because of the COVID restrictions within the exhibit, they would have to wear masks. So instead of trying to automate the process, we had an assistant outside taking photographs where they could still be without the mask. The assistant emailed us these portraits. /P and I were sitting at the computer days in the middle of the hall with one of our machines that was rendering the deepfakes and the other that was sending the deepfakes to this mapping tool that would project it onto the 6 screens. We had the driving videos twice duplicated here across the axes, because when you're standing in the middle of it, you can only see 3 at a time. You can't, of course, see all 6 unless you've got eyes in the back of your head. The other 4 videos would be then the deepfake videos, all in sync with the 2 copies of the driving videos. But since the screens were transparent, when you entered the room, right now you're entering right into the room, you can see the days in the middle, and you can see that the images, the deepfakes, were also showing from the outside and not just on the inside. So this produced a really wonderful surround sense that I really liked. I'd like to ask that we run the first of the videos then, and that is a recording done in this space.
Welcome to us young people for hope. How dare you?
I personally don't see it. I hope you're singing. Okay, can we stop the video and go back to the PowerPoint, please? So, because we were in the middle of the COVID season, if you will, we actually did not know coming up to the exhibit in September whether or not we would actually be able to open the doors. So Bekannten and Einer made the decision to, at the same time, create a online virtual exhibition that duplicated the real exhibition as closely as possible. It turned out we had luck that 1 week that we had the exhibit up was able to be open, but now the virtual version is online and can be experienced by anyone. Can you please run the second video? And I can't see it, but I'm assuming that you're seeing how it's showing the front page and the map.
Wir schaffen das. Wir schaffen das.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
You all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Okay, can we stop and come back to the PowerPoint, please? So presumably you saw the splash page, you saw the navigation page that had a hot link that took you directly to the doorway into the room, and you could see how similar that was to the photographs that I took in the actual exhibition space. So this gave the exhibit and all of the work that went into this one-week exhibit, of course, a much longer life. So this is one way that the same exhibition, and with it my same work, was able to be shown in a much wider context. So after that, I got an inquiry from the Photographers Gallery in London to show the piece on their media wall. Again, what happened was that, unfortunately, in January, when the exhibit was supposed to begin, the gallery had to be shut down because of a COVID wave that was happening. So that actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because John Uriarte, the digital programs director, gave us a commission to make a net art version of the piece. This is a website it's up right now. We will be taking down our server tomorrow evening, actually, so it won't be running after then, but if you hurry, you can still try it out. So here, this is, if the first version was sort of a semi-public version where other people would see your face being taken over by these public figures and made to mouth words that you might support and some that you might really not support. This is a private version of the piece. So you go to it in your browser, or the best thing is on your smartphone. We have instructions on how to make an optimal selfie for it to work. You upload the image, and then what you see is your own personal deep fakes next to the driving videos. So we've used this online NetArt website to feed into other real-life presentations. So here, just this fall, the Metronome Gallery in Modena also has an outdoor video wall, and we were using the online NetArt version, Go Fake Yourself, to get visitors to try it out themselves, and if they found that they liked the results of their own image, they could send it into the gallery, and I would then edit together in a piece that would be shown on the video wall. Now, since this is a pre-edited piece and not one that's spontaneous and just using a random number generator to select it, then I could use the editing process to show the passersby a little bit more of what's happening behind the scenes, because of course they don't have access right then to the website. Can we please run the third video?
Beginning of a mass extinction. All you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
This is the dawn of a new era. This is the moment when the dawn breaks and the curtain goes up on a new act in our great national drama.
Human beings have overrun the world.
Better days will return.
What we do in the next few years will determine the next few thousand years.
Better days will return.
This is the dawn of a new era.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
Human beings have overrun the world.
Better days will return.
This is the dawn of a new era.
We will be
Thank you.
with our
Can we
friends
stop the
again.
video and come back here?
We will be with our
So hopefully you saw some snippets where I started out showing just the still image and then switched over to the animated deepfake version. So that's really a second version, or a third version actually, of the piece, where I can use the fact that I'm creating a pre-edited video to show some insight into what's happening and what the input image was and what the deepfake image that comes out of it is like in its stead. So during this same time last year, when we're still under constant lockdowns or potential lockdowns, the VR curator Julie Walsh started showing online exhibits in Mozilla hubs, a fairly simple to use and works in every browser sort of online virtual world. So she put the exhibits into my exhibit into a couple of these, and it had the very curious aspect that in Mozilla hubs, the videos cannot be started all at once. They have to be started one after another. So, so this produced a real cacophony, which I personally really love. Here's one exhibit she did with the Medientage München, and then another one with the Meet Digital Cultural Center in Milan, a bricks and mortar space that, however, also asked Julie to create in Mozilla Hub's online virtual space. Can we please run the fourth video of this? And listen, look at the faces and listen to what they're saying.
Yes, we can.
Welcome to us young people. How dare you? How dare you?
And from our shores,
How dare you?
going to disappear one day.
How dare you?
Yes, we can.
Okay, can we come back to the, I'm going to assume that we're back at my presentation now. Oh, interesting. This runs in the video also. Okay, so just the final thing. The piece is currently being shown at the Microwave Festival in Hong Kong, and we made a special version of the online Go Fake Yourself net art. You can see in the lower right-hand corner that's now running on a tablet there with instructions. So people can go into the exhibit and then use the tablet to make a selfie on the spot. And then in just a couple of minutes, they'll see their face on the screen as animated into a deep fake. And I want to point out that, of course, we're sitting here in Munich. We unfortunately could not travel to Hong Kong for the exhibit, but the people in Hong Kong are generating the input images. Those are being uploaded to our server on the internet. Our internet server is downloading it to the deepfake server, which is actually in the hallway of our apartment. And then our hallway apartment server sends the finished deepfakes up to our internet server, where they are then downloaded onto the PC in Hong Kong and then shown on the screen. So this is all running very solidly over the internet. And as much as I would have loved to have been in Hong Kong, it did save us a couple of very long flights that I couldn't do with my broken leg, and that would have, of course, really created a carbon burden. So that's the end of my talk. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope it was gave you some ideas of how you can take one single artwork, and with these different opportunities that are available to us now, to show them in different ways, make different iterations depending on the needs of the venue. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your inspiring and enlightening input, Dr. Tamiko, and your precious insights in your artwork.
Thank you.
Afterwards, we have the opportunity to meet you together for a Q&A session, and it's quite easy to get there. You only have to find her on the participants list. Just click her name and then click follow, and you will be directed straight to Tamiko on Gather. See you there. Thank you so much.
I have to find the link too. Hold on.
It's quite easy to find.
There it is. Thank you, Andreas.
Thank you. See you soon. Und im Anschluss um 3:45 treffen wir uns sozusagen zu einem Meet the Team, Meet the HoloLab Team, einer kleinen Session, wo wir wahnsinnig gerne mit euch uns austauschen möchten darüber, wie zukünftige Events dieser Art aussehen könnten und was auch eure Bedürfnisse und Bedarfe sind, weil wir die natürlich auch gerne für zukünftige Aktivitäten mit einbeziehen möchten und würde mich freuen, wenn viele von euch um 3:15 nochmal dabei sein werden. Also bis dahin. Tschüss.